Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala.
Kunta is so far away. Is it because you're riding on Garuda, so it's far away? No, I think that it's here now. The song meaning, it's very.
That is the meaning of this song, what he's saying?
Yeah, it's a portion of this song. So it's he's pleading with the Lord. So now itself, I have to be with you. I can't be far away from you. But you seems to be far away because you are coming in Garuda. That means you must be far away. I don't think so. You are here.
Yeah. Beautiful. So that is a good thing, Nilakantanji, that how far we are and how close we are, and what is far or what is close. If we stay as body, mind, that gap can never fill. But if we stay as what we are, then there is no gap. So this only this much is needed, which intellectually everyone understands. Everyone on this path understands this thing, that we are not the body mind complex and we are this pure awareness. But intellectual understanding does not help at all. We can repeat all the time, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, but that doesn't help, because that becomes like a parrot thing through the mind only. But there is one thing which helps all of us to transcend, which is keep quiet. And that keep quiet has so much of power. And look, it might be there in scriptures in the past, but when Bhagwan told in recent times, it is a boon to all of us, it is his grace. Because if we go deeper into it, what exactly is happening right now is that even small stimulus and we start acting from the ego complex. Small stimulus, anyone says anything, sometimes we say, sometimes we act, and sometimes we even think in our mind. All the three are like action only, because we are reacting from the ego complex, whatever happens around us. If we stop doing that, and that is just a practice, we can purely stay as awareness, just as a witness, rather than jumping on to judge, to react, to give our expert opinion about everything, because that's what we have done all our life. We don't know how to keep quiet. How can we keep quiet whatever is happening, and just accepting it, good or bad, rather than expert commentary, about everything in this world, that we are the expert. And then what that expert does is, that expert uses all its knowledge, intelligence, and then what it does, in a very rude manner, it tries to put oneself on this pedestal and rest of the whole world and other people at this is what it does. Whether it is my profession, whether it is my income, whether my intelligence, whether, in a way, it speaks out to put itself there and others there. And that is the problem. Whatever we teach, whatever we learn, this ego wants this body mind complex to be number one. And that is the only problem. If we understand this and keep quiet, even when we know things or we don't know things, or in both ways, it doesn't affect as abhiman, as ego, that I am superior. Also other way also, that I don't know anything and I'm a really stupid fellow, and everyone knows and I don't know. Everyone has money, I don't have money. You know, both ways. Both ways we are complaining in a way, or we are trying to project things through mind. This this filter, and seeing everything through the filter of mind. And the simplest thing, very simple thing, is just to keep quiet and just see without prejudices, without any judgment. And some professions you can do so easily, like I can take our profession as a doctor, that people keep coming, new one comes, and then the new one comes after next hour, and the new one. Now how you take this stranger, in a way, like you start judging them. Like we have been taught that you pick up signs and symptoms of a disease even when the patient is walking into the clinic. That's okay. But as a person, and this helps all of us as a sadhakas, to just be, just be as awareness, as a formless awareness, as impersonal, no personality. So not feeding to the personality at any stage, just staying pure presence, and not jumping on to judge, to do, just stay there, which is very very hard things. This inaction within is a very very hard thing, because we are conditioned, and we have been taught in school, in culture, that we have been a debater and debate and prove and all those things. And if we just accept whatever it is, just acceptance has the most power in bringing us back home, rather than analyzing everything, and rather than critical about anything. Just observing without complaint, that is important. Because if I'm observing but inside I'm feeling unhappy, then there is another trick. One is we just observe, but then because the mind is conditioned and it says, look, I've been insulted, or this has happened which is not right, if I just keep observing, this person will take advantage. And this all melodrama of the personality can go on. This internal dialogue is going on and you are observing, but you are, because of that internal dialogue and because of our previous attachments, there is this bitterness or unhappiness or restlessness or uneasiness. But that all can be observed from this stillness. And what will happen is that maybe there might be few days of this restlessness and unsettlement, maybe few weeks. Maybe people might think that this person is depressed, or maybe we think we are not enacting and we are not fighting for our rights. But that's okay, and then you stay. But this staying without reacting will generate that awareness in us more and more, because that's what we are now into all the time, just being aware. We can slip back into the mind game, and then we might react, maybe externally to the people, or we internally unhappy. But let's just observe. Let's observe as much as we can. And that is the only practice needed. And when we stay as an observer to what is happening in the ego, in the mind, in our emotions, what is going to happen the next is, and that is purest of grace. No one can claim that it may happen, it might not happen. That this entity, which is pure presence, which is observing, is also observed in that vastness. And who can say about it, or who can define it? It's undefinable. So that pure presence, that purest essence in us, can which is just that pure stillness can also be seen in that vastness, and that vastness is just all pervading. And how this happens, this will happen on its own when we spend time as a pure observer, aware of the dynamics happening in our mind body complex with others, with the word, when we stay in that presence for long enough. It's not just long enough, but also intensely. Like we shuffle, we come and go sometimes, we can, in a good mood, in a better atmosphere, when the situation around us is nice, we can observe things very clearly, and we feel that bliss, and we feel peace and contentment. But if the situation around us changes and it becomes hostile to us, maybe exactly something which we don't like in our cultural conditioning, that is absolutely wrong, something, whatever it could be, then to observe it becomes quite difficult. And this is the thing, when we keep observing the dynamics happening in the mind body and not reacting internally to it, and not externally also, then the second thing opens up. And this is purest of pure grace. No one can claim how it happens, but that entity, or you can say that awareness which is observing thing, is also observed. And when that happens, then you get into an intense bliss or deep peace, which is like everything, even that observing of the entity of mind body, completely dissolves. Because it's not like we are three people. One is this ego identity, and then one is observing. But the moment this thing which sees this observing observer, the whole structure of this ego mind completely dissolves. Because that, in witnessing, the ego mind complex start behaving rightly, less reactive, and paying attention to being an observer, things becomes much more settled gradually and slowly. But when this seeing happens, that this which is observing is also seeing, the grace, the self-effulgent power of that which undefinable, the ego complex disappears. It just completely goes. It can't stand that. Now, this is, I'm trying to put it in very simple way. Maybe it is maybe more complex. I'm not sure how you're perceiving what I'm telling and how much are you understanding it. But the truth is just plain observing all the time. So we wake up and we observe. So we interact with people, but our interaction and our speaking becomes less and less and less. And this is the way we can know our progress. And unnecessary jokes, unnecessary laughter, or gossip, or intense attraction towards worldly things or people starts dropping, because all these are works of that ego mind complex. And when you are observing, because observer actually gains a lot of bliss and peace, and you feel it. It's a real experience of that bliss coming through just as a pure witness. And when you're getting what you get when you talk to people, or when you are attracted to things, you lose interest. And you can look like a bit depressed. Maybe you have lack of interest with people or with the activities. So udasin bhav, which is more like you're not much keen about things around you. You stay there, and then this, up to this, anyone can do. Up to this, we all can, by practice, can be there. And then this is the gate for complete dissolution of our mind ego complex. You can call it grace of this witnessing, grace of this pure observer, transcends forever completely from the mind body complex completely. Then it is like if someone wakes you up at night and asks you, are you married or unmarried? You will say, yeah, I'm married or unmarried, whatever you are. Like nobody has to keep reminding you about it, that no, I am body, or oh, no, I am awareness, or getting confused. No, never. Even someone comes with a sword on your chest, you know that you are not this body. Like that ego, that whole apparatus which we were coming and going through, that observer and the ego, that completely drops in that vast infinite awareness, which is being just watched from that unknown, undefinable source which you don't know. But if it is observed, if this observer is also being observed, beyond which nothing can be perceived, if this is the end game of the whole thing, then what are you? Where do you stand? Do you stand as ego, or do you stand as a witness of that ego, or do you stand as that all pervasive? You can call it a stage, but this is unfolding of the pure awareness. And who can say how it happens? But definitely it happens when you are living a life of a witness. When you are not reacting to anything, good or bad or small or big, or to you or to your relatives or whatever type. When you are not at all interested in the story of the ego and things related to it. This type of witnessing we all can do. It does not need any efforts. This witnessing is nobody is even observing that you are in that witness mode. Sometimes you will not know that you are witnessing all the time, because this witnessing becomes your habit, so strong habit that even if someone is saying your name, you might have to focus on that. Yes, they are calling you. Or maybe you have some possessions, you will not even remember that this belongs to me or to you, and you might be a bit confused in so many ways in life. But that's good for that's there's no need to remember so many things which the ego loves to remember, likes to arrange, like to plan, like to judge. You become a bit more like an avdhut, a bit of a lost person, because we don't need that much of precision in life to live a life of bliss. Because the control freak in you is almost slowly, it's just disappearing. Just observing. This observing has so much of power. Maybe Neelakantanji can explain. I remembered long time back, I read in an Upanishad about the tale of two birds, one on the upper of the tree,
That's
and
in Mundaka Upanishad, there are two birds sitting. One bird he is tasting the various fruits. There's some, it is, some are very ripe fruits, the others are not ripe, so it is going through both the sour and the good fruits. And but it looks at some other bird which is sitting on the top, and it is just remaining without tasting anything. And finally, one day, he claims to that and becomes that. It's a simile for our state. And Acharya Shankara gives a very nice example, beautiful example. When in Vivek Chudamani, when the Sishya gets it, we have all seen hailstone. So that hailstone, just it is hailing in the sea, not in the land. It's hailing in the sea. And what happens is the atmosphere on the top, while near the cloud, is very cold. So the pebbles are that small, these hollow stones have formed, and slowly it's coming down like this, because the atmosphere is getting hotter and hotter, slightly hotter. By the time it touches the water, it has melted, and it has become water. Otherwise, it would be floating. Like that, that silence when you are in, and the bigger silence takes you over, and you are lost there. There's no different personality. You become one with that. Like the small hailstone, which is water itself. But it doesn't know. But when it falls, it might create a big this one. But it becomes water, then there's no splash. It doesn't even know that it has existed. It just mingles with the water. Like that, it becomes, say you become like that. There is another story given by a Mahatma, very nice story. Say like, this is again in India, North India. So it's near the area Sindh, the border of India and Pakistan. The Sindh River is there. So there was a monk who was always walking in the midnight. And he was walking through the main street, and there was a bank there. And there was a watchman in the bank. And this man is so curious about this monk walking at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night. So the watchman of the bank follows the monk 50 meters back. What is he doing? And slowly he watches the monk, but the monk doesn't turn back, he just goes. And he's sitting in front of a river, and just so calm he's sitting. And the watchman thinks that it's time for me to go back, otherwise nobody's there in my place. So he goes back to the bank. Next day, he musters up the courage to ask Swamiji, hey, who are you? But the Swamiji the presence is so much that he doesn't bother. He first asks, who are you? And he says that, I'm the watchman of this bank. And the Swamiji replies, I'm also a watcher. I'm watching the watcher. You get the point. That's all. I'm watching the watcher. So the watcher disappears, and nothing is left. So it's we're all watching the watcher.
And somehow we can remember this. Watching the watcher. Somehow we remember it all the time. There's no wait to be free forever, because what we are going to be free is from our individual cage of this ego identity which we have created, or we should not say we have created, like it's being created, whatever the reason was, our conditioning, our culture, our upbringing. Now we have to unwind, and to get out of it, this is such a simple technique. Just observe. Don't be interested in your story. Watch this. And that is true. This story is not your story. You are formless, pure, unborn awareness. Unborn has no story. The one which is born from birth to death has a story. It has a mind, it has a body, it has a family, it has friends, it has enemies, it has study, job. All this dynamic thing is happening with this body. When your story will be written by someone, your biography, they will write the story of the body mind. They can't write your story. You are a Sat Chitananda, your existence, consciousness, bliss. People have not even seen you. No one can put your picture. That is why so many sages, they don't want their pictures to be taken and put in the temple. And like in Muslim religion, they believe that there should not be picture of prophet. It has a deep meaning, because awareness, you can't take a picture of awareness. And that's why some of the sects like Arya Samaji in India, they are so against the idol worship. But all these things also have a place in it. It's not that nothing is wrong. But what I'm trying to say is that the purest of pure, what we are, have no body, no image. We are formless, and 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 no language, just pure silence. The languages of this body and mind complex, the stories of this Bible. Okay, let's say I say, look, this is my story because still I am there. Then how many stories I have? Millions of stories in all these years. Each birth is a story. And then another story, and then another, and how many stories, and what happened to those stories? Which one is true story? Which one is false story? Which story should I take seriously? Which the other one? Which one should I not take? But in all purity, none of us have a story. If we would like to talk to each other as what we are, we can only be talking in silence. But because the silence, we are not interested in silence, we are not interested in this awareness, observer, and because noise always looks really big, and because of our conditioning, we don't pay attention, and that's why we find it difficult to realize the truth, what we are. But once we understand and we observe, it's not that difficult. Self-realization and self-abidance is something which is true. How can it be difficult? It is the other way around. Once you have your own experiential understanding of it, it is very hard to produce that ego again. No, it is a one way. You cannot go back. Even now you want that, you were loving that life of that ego mind complex. You cannot. Because that once that knot is broken, once that illusion is gone, no coming back. Even if you don't want to be free, who can bound you? Because that fake identity is gone away by your own experiential understanding. You can't be that again. Whoever people around you might see, still there is a personality, because the body is still there. You're using that language, you have an accent, you have a color of the body, you have some eating habits. So people can say that personality exists, but for whom? For whom that personality exists? For you, who knows that you are formless awareness, unborn, eternal? For you that there is any personality? For whom there is a personality? It is so difficult to understand a sage if you are not a sage, because our perception is at the body mind level, and we take everything at that level, and we take their behavior as a personality. But there is no personality. The body and mind complex is being given a structure by birth, and the awareness has no other option but to use that till the body mind complex withers away, dies away. And you see some of the sages, they speak very rough language, or they were smoking and they still smoke, or they love sweets, they still keep eating, because it is not creating any problem to them. It is creating problem to the people around them, who have made up a mind that a sage should behave like this. He should not wear a tie, or he should shave his head, or he should wear those types of clothes, or he should live in a cave. Why should he live in a cave? A sadhak, we should live in a cave. A sadhak has to go and practice. There's no need. Bhagwan went and lived that was his choice. And if you see, you listen to so many people who talk about Bhagwan, biggest misconception I try to clear of people is they think he went and did meditation in cave and then got enlightenment. I can't believe this. So many people, even some learned people who give all the time these lectures, they say that Bhagwan at the age of 16 he came and he lived in caves. He did ghor tapasya, then he got. This is very hard. So the same thing, if we stay in this awareness more and more and more and more as an observer, that awareness which is already all pervading just takes away everything. It eats away this ego. As I think Neelakantan ji is trying to explain, that with that power of awareness, ego melts away. Ego disappears, because it is made up from that same source. It goes back to the source completely and it disappears.
Bhagavan puts it very nicely. The external guru pushes you in and the internal guru sucks you up.
Yeah. And Bhagwan is what? Bhagwan is a person came in this dream world to tell us, please obey his silence and go back. He didn't ask us to stand on one leg. He didn't ask us to do any japa. He didn't ask us to leave home. He just asked us to keep quiet. Summa yeru. Just keep quiet and you will gain it. And this is what in Satsang group Neelakantan ji put. Once you have made him your guru, you have surrendered to Bhagwan, job is already done. Guaranteed work. You have surrendered to Arunachala, you have surrendered to Bhagwan, this job is done. Now you just have to act like you are doing something to be free. Exactly like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna that everything is already decided. You have already won the war. You just have to act that you are using the bow and throwing the arrows on the enemies. The job is already done. You just have to act. Part of this drama, please act, but I will request everyone, please act. Please do this drama at least. This much you can do, just being a witness. Rest is all being already decided and done and dusted. You are free. But can you just take this much of advice from me? Please do this drama. To be just observing. Just stay as an observer, as a witness, and that's all. This grace is helping, this pull and push is working. My humble request is with folded hands that please do this drama. Be the observer all the time when you wake up till you sleep. Even if the people around you are torturing you, you are in a Nazi camp, and you should read that book, Who Was in the Nazi Camp? situation around us is not an issue. Our sadhana, our practice is to just be aware. And I think by God's grace, we are not going through that bad suffering that we can't focus on pure witness. Stay as pure witness all the time. Never ever get excited or depressed about anything around you. And yes, because you are on this journey, there will be times when you get into the mind body complex and you feel bad or happy or sad or maybe proud also. But you can observe that what the hell this ego is doing and how the mind is reacting. And without any attachment and mercy to the mind, just observe as it's a stranger you have been given and how it is behaving. And just by mere watching and watching all the time, it will transform. It will start getting more settled, because mind also wants rest. We have abused it, we have overused it in this birth and in previous births, and we have given so many tasks for the mind with our desires to go there, do this, do that, and not just given tasks to do things, but confused mind all the time. One day we will say we want this, another day we say, oh, we don't want this. Bloody mind is working on this thing which you asked 10 days back. Now you don't want, now you want this. We are really idiots, We have given mind so many tasks and we keep changing tasks and our desires keep changing. We don't stick to anything. And then we complain to mind that mind is restless. We are restless. Mind is not restless. We have made mind restless. We have made this mind mad. And now the mind also will be happy if you don't give it a task and just observe. Use it as less as possible. Stay in the observer mode. Practice it to stay as an observer mode from morning you wake up till you go to bed. Practice it. I'm sure in spite of our practice, there will be hundreds of times in a day when we act like an ego mode, but it's a practice. But this practice will transform you completely. Your personality will change, because then you will not be interested in so many things which were only important when you were working like an ego. But when you are working as an impersonal presence, as pure awareness, so many desires, so many attachments, and so many actions will drop. You will have so much of a space in your day. Somehow a big change in your life will come, is that the days will become so long and you will not be tired. You will always have patience to talk to someone or to sit with someone. You will never be short of time, because you are beyond time as an observer. You never feel compulsion to run from one task to another like a headless chicken. People are running from one task to other, to other, to other, to other. Who has created so much of work for us? It is just ego. It's Rajasic quality, I need to do this, to do this. There's no compulsion. And the beauty in this awareness is that so many compulsions will just drop away. Those words will disappear. There might be 100 emails bombarding to you to do these tasks, and you don't open, and somehow by His grace those things will disappear. It is our own compulsion in our mind which makes us to feel that all these tasks are so important. And then we don't have time to observe, to be witness, because we are always in this mind to do this, to do this, to do this. We are always looking ahead for the next task and next and next. This is the cage. And freedom is just observing how this mind is acting. And acting for whom? For this stupid ego, which makes it so restless that I want this, I want this, I want this. These wants never end. And we try to fix up everything. It is like, it is a big thing. You're trying to fix here and this thing is popping up. And then you fix here like a kid's game. You fix this and this pops up, and you fix this and this pops up. This is the life which we all are leading. Why don't just put your hands up, let everything pop up? You are not trying to fix anything. Let that Supreme fix up everything, or not fix up, who cares? Accept whatever it is. When we accept complete chaos, somehow it gives bliss. If you don't understand this, go to India. Complete chaos. Someone is going like this, someone is going, no traffic sense, fear, what people are doing. It looks like a mad world. But when you go there, you observe. And you observe in that open heart. Somehow in that chaos, there is so much of peace. It is a paradox. It is like you go to a forest and the forest looks so beautiful. But if a very control freak person goes, he will think, oh, things are not arranged. I want like a garden bed. Everything should be in a row. There, everything is just haphazard. The forest looks so beautiful in that vast organic growth of wildflowers and trees, and something is coming out from one tree, something is creeping on another tree. It looks so beautiful. Let's leave all the tasks to the Supreme God, and let's all of us just observe our life as it unfolds, good or bad. And not using the word good or bad, just how it unfolds, accepting it, everything as good, everything as a blessing. Blessing, because whatever is happening in each of us life is the way it has to unfold for us to know our true being. Because that is His plan, but we have our own plans and we don't trust His plan. The Supreme's plan is for us, all of us, to walk in the maze which He has created, accepting everything, and we'll be back home. But we try to find out, no, I'll do this to reach back home, or no, I want this, and then we get lost. And how to accept His plan is just pure observing. And pure observing has all the power. You go from the ego mode to the witness mode, to that which is all pervading. And it is not difficult. It might look difficult for some people, but let's practice it. And if a problem comes, we all can sort out together that problem. Let's work out like a family. If any one of us is having any problem in staying on this path, let's call it path right now, or the practice. If anyone has any problem, we can always sort it out. But I'm sure with that grace, there will be never a problem. But stay on the path. Remember this. And the remembrance is also comes by the grace and satsang. And keep repeating this again and again and again and again. And in this silence, everything which is untrue just burns away. Our ego, our anger, our greed, our jealousy, all these things, nothing can stand the power of witness. It is so powerful. It just burns away. The fire of this knowledge burns away everything which is untrue. which is not us. And the life changes completely. Internally, you are not the same person whom your partner married. That person is already dead. Stay like that. Stay in that nothingness, where there is no person, no personality, just emptiness. And because you have no agenda, you are always full of time. You have plenty of time. Time is not at all an issue once you leave your ego mode. And so much of spaciousness, acceptance. Probably our heart is this much, but it becomes infinite. Because of total acceptance, we all become one family. Whole world becomes one family. Everything, even no enemies, nothing. What this awareness wants, nothing from anyone. Awareness cannot be greedy. Awareness does not have any of these attributes. Actually, awareness has nothing to gain from this world. Nothing. Who can give anything to awareness? Food, shelter, clothes, money. If we are awareness, what we need from the world? Nothing. If we are awareness, what we will give to the world? Love. And what we need back from the world? Nothing. So how can you be selfish if you are pure awareness? You have no needs from the world. And because that is the fragrance of awareness, bliss and love, how can you be selfish? How can anyone who is on path of spirituality can be selfish? I know some worldly people think that, oh, go and help people, rather than sitting in solitude and doing your sadhana and practice. They don't understand this, Whatever help people are doing with the ego mind, they are just boosting their ego only. Yes, it is not bad to help people. Help as many people as you can. But you don't have to make an agenda to help and go and put on Facebook or media to that I'm helping. That is not help. If you're helping from the right hand, even your left hand should not know that you're helping. And the biggest help to the world, you listen to Bhagwan, the biggest help to the world is when you know your own self. And the biggest help to the world is to help someone else to know the self. Because what happens is when you are awareness impersonal, you radiate that bliss and peace to everyone you see or people you don't see, even to strangers, to plants and everything. You become like oxygen cylinders in this world which is full of greed, full of anger, full of jealousy, full of egoistic people. It becomes like a fresh breath. All these sages, saints, sadhaks, bhaktas, all these people are keeping the level of this earth so it is not finishing soon. Keeping it light, not heavy. But who understands this? An ego mind can never understand it. An ego mind would like to see the proof that if I know my pure self, will I be able to get more money or a bigger house or good relationships or a medal? Because it sees everything in form of a matter. What I will gain? What I will get if I know this self? What I will get? The ego doesn't know how to give freely without asking for anything. It's only the awareness. That is awareness, nature, just to not to give, but that's what it is. It does not need anything. It's only the body mind complex has needs and wants. People have connections in life, networking, websites like Facebook, LinkedIn. What are they linking? They're linking their own egos, their desires, their wants, connections. What connections does help? In what will help will do? Name, fame, money, wealth. And what will happen with that? Bigger ego. Bigger connections, bigger ego. And then what will happen? Maybe more acquiring, and then what will happen? Bigger ego. Then where is liberation? Nowhere. Now talk about a sadhak who, because he's in solitude, is contemplating. Maybe he's losing money. Okay, he has no desires, so he's lose all friends. He lose money, he lose name. He has very limited requirements. Achaha, he has no desires. Okay. What is the biggest fear of the sadhak? He might die. But then who will stay forever? The person who has acquired everything, will he stay forever? He will die. And he will not be able to take anything with him. Billions of dollars of whatever. And then another person who is practicing, who has no desires, and he is just happy in his awareness. And because he has no desires and he's not making any LinkedIn corrections, so there's no food on his table. Okay, so one day in the news will come that XYZ, who was a sadhak, he died of hunger because there was no food on his table. Then is it a big deal? How is it a big deal? This is the extreme. I'm saying to you, a person, what people think that a sadhak, how he will survive if he's not worldly. What will be the end result of being not worldly? Die of hunger? Nobody is helping, no money, nothing. He will take example of Bhagwan. He had 3 rupees left. He threw it away, tore out his clothes, sitting in the cave. Sometimes, everyone feels very compassionate, very, loving for him, because there were days for 3 days, 4 days, or 1 week he has no food. His body was bones. But he lived till say 70, and he died his natural death, whatever it has to come after, at the age of 70. So who kept him surviving for that long? Who? His connections? That connection is the most important connection. If that connection wants you to live for 104 years, you will live up to 104 years. If that connection wants you to go now, you can create as much wealth as you want and you will disappear. So that connection we have to get, and that connection can come only when we try to disconnect ourselves with our petty desires and making connections in this world to gain things. Path of a sadhak and path of a worldly person is exactly opposite. You can't be on both boats. It's not any diplomacy, it's not politics. You have to take one path only. You can't, otherwise you're wasting your time. It's better to be worldly and just do everything and make everyone happy and get things from people and acquire wealth and whatever you want. But if you want to be a sadhak, then the path is exactly opposite. But in exactly opposite, you don't have to leave anything. You can continue doing, but you have no desire whatever from inside. You're not doing flattery because if this person goes, then I will have a loss. You just love everyone. not to get anything out of them. You will not love people who are giving you something and hate who are abusing you. Just love everyone. But that egoistic personality which only tries to find out things which can help and feed this ego mind body are friends, and the ones who don't like this ego mind are enemies. You stay in your stillness, and this whole thing which is fake shatters. Ego dissolves. Ego cannot stand this watchful awareness. As Bhagwan says, it shies away. The moment you look deeper and you observe, the power of observance makes it disappear forever. And we should not stop before it disappears forever. Yes, just paying, observing, paying attention to this witness gives a lot of bliss and peace, calmness. But don't be just satisfied with that. We have to finish the task. Stay there and stay there and stay there. And this whole structure which is false just disappears. It was there just because of our interest in the worldly things. If we see our relationship in the world, and if we don't want anything from anyone, see, so many connections will just disappear immediately. And you will notice how many people call you just for help when they need something. And how many people call you when you're on a position because you can help them. And how many people call when you have lost that position. So the thing is that if you but all these things you have to understand for yourself, not to criticize others. Leave the whole drama, the dream around us, whatever it is, with a total acceptance. We are not gossiping, we are not criticizing anyone. The whole idea is for us to get out of that role what we took as an ego mind complex and just be a witness. Staying in this witness mode for days and days and days and days, the practice will dissolve, because that is our natural state. How long you have to practice to be what you are? And with that grace, with that pull, and with your practice, and with your honesty, no practice will be needed. So practice is needed till it becomes a natural state. For some people, even listening to these words can keep them in natural state without practice. And for others, they might have to still practice a bit more. It depends how much already we have baggage we have collected in our mind, which is not leaving us, which is very strong pull of the mind. That long we have to practice to stay as pure awareness. But success is 100% guarantee. You have come to the purest of pure teaching. The grace of Arunachala, grace of Bhagwan, grace of Satsang, and grace of your purest of intention to know yourself. What can be purer than that, to know your own self? We all should know ourselves before this body dies. Because this game can only be played in this living body. And anyway, we don't know what happens after that. If the next time we become a tree or a cockroach, then it would be very difficult, isn't it? Here we have a sound mind, we have grace, we have a guru, we have grace, we have Shiva, we have everything, we have all the best, we have all the sadhans, we have all the right stuff to work. This is the best. We can never be in a better condition than this. Now the task will happen. There's no choice here. But we just have to act and just be an observer. Let what comes. Let whatever happens in our life should not surprise us. Nothing should be a surprise to us. Take it at that level. Nothing. Nothing can be surprise to us. And remember this, the mantra, keep quiet. Summa Yeru. This is the mantra. This is the ultimate mantra. And if anyone has any problem in keeping quiet, you can talk to me. It is not. How much faith do you need in Bhagwan? But then please don't just be a devotee of Bhagwan, taking an agarbatti around his picture and then going and watching a movie and then putting your legs up and then sleeping. Please don't do that. It's better to not have a Bhagwan's picture in your house. Don't do all that drama. You have to do what he's saying. Because all that thing we are doing for time immemorial, going to temple and churches and nothing has happened. No need to do on any of those things. I don't want to name a person. When I went to Ramana Ashram, I told them we are starting, should we have an idol of Bhagwan and all? And he said, do you want to make Bhagwan angry? I don't want to name because a lot of people know that person. So I said, no, why would I make Bhagwan angry? I said, but you are doing the same. You have put an idol of Bhagwan. He said, who can control these stupid people here, who have created all this drama here? So this is the thing, you don't need an idol or, worship like, again, you will just leave everything to him to do. He's asking us to do. His grace is on us to help us to do, but the task needs to be done by us only. No one else. This is the other secret of this game. No one else can do it for you. A guru or a teacher can only tell you the path, but you have to go on that path. You have to do it. No one else can do it for you. Don't think all the people around Bhagwan got enlightenment and moksha just because they were with him. Annamalai Swami said a beautiful thing. He said, so many of them were like who were flies and insects on the udder, sucking the blood on the udder instead of getting the nectar of milk from the cow. They are like that. They just stay there like parasites around Bhagwan, but they are not interested in any sadhana. So it is important. It is our duty. It is not, Bhagwan is there to tell us, but if we are sleeping and just staying in our tamasic qualities, then you can't blame Bhagwan for that. Yes, but if you work hard, then his grace is on you. You know what is grace? I remember in school days there were students who have less marks and they are failing and they say, he passed by grace marks. I don't know, but in India it was quite popular, getting some grace marks. Let's say if you are 5 marks less they will give you. So this is what I always feel when I think about Bhagwan. We are the papis of papis. We have done all wrong things in our life. This body mind has done so many wrong things that we would have never come across so far, but because of his grace. But for grace we need to practice and grace together. Practice and grace both works together. This is the grace which is allowing us to be in satsang and then do practice, and then the grace will again push us and pull us. Both things are happening because of grace. But we can't just sit because there will be grace. We have to write the examination paper. We have to practice. So I'm saying that this is 100%, everything is already being sorted out. We just have to act like we are working, and we are working on it. That's all. Om Shanti Shanti.